this tutorial, we'll build an authentication system using Go. Before building the app, I would like to remind you that this video is meant to be combined with other videos. So if you want to use Go with Angular, React, Next.js, Vue, Nuxt.js or Svelte, check the links in the description. Also make sure to check scalablescripts.com. Now let's build the app. Now let's download and install Go. Before I start, make sure to know the basics of Go. So if you are a total beginner, make sure to watch a tutorial about Go basics first. So with that being said, let's get started. Click download Go and download the right version for your machine. Also make sure to download MySQL, download the MySQL community server and the MySQL workbench. Also the Go framework that we will be using is Go Fiber, so the Fiber framework. Fiber is a framework inspired by Express.js, so if you know Express.js, it will be easier for you to learn Fiber. So I'll copy this code and in my project here, which is an empty folder, I'll create a Go file main.go. I'll call a package main and I'll create a function, so I'll paste the code actually. So before I run this up, first make sure to get this package. So to get this package, I already got it from my machine, but if you don't have it, you should run this command go get Go Fiber, and this will install it in your machine. Also make sure to configure your Go path. I will use the version 1 here because the version 2 throws an error for some reason, and we will listen to port 8000. To run this up, run go run main.go, and Fiber will run on port 8000. Let's go to port 8000, localhost, port 8000, hello world. So this is our first Go app. Now let's connect with our database. So I'll create a connection to my local database here, to MySQL. So the user is root, password is root, and the database is YouTube Go Auth. So this is my local database, which is empty. Now let's connect with this database. To connect with the database, we will be using GORM. So let's copy this command here, go get to install GORM. I'll close the server and install this. Also make sure to install also the driver. I won't be using SQLite, but I will be using MySQL. So the driver is MySQL. So with this, we can connect with GORM. So here I will import, so I can have multiple imports here if I use the brackets. And here we need gorm.io/gorm and also gorm.io/driver MySQL. We need those two. Now let's connect with the database. So we have a connection and an error because Go can return multiple variables. Gorm open MySQL open. We need a string inside, which I will add it later, and the other parameter is gorm config. So this is a connection. If an error happens, so if error is not nil, we need to panic, so could not connect to the database. So panic will stop our app if an error happens. Now the connection, for the moment we won't be using it, so I will put an underscore there. And if we don't panic here, it means that the connection is successful. So let's run the app. So we panicked because I forgot to add the DNS here. So let's do that. So my user is root. Then I need to pass a password, which is root. And then I put a net here. And now we need the database. YouTube Goauth. So this is our local database connection. Now let's run the app again. And now we can see that Fiber is running. It means that we successfully connected with the database. Now let's restructure the folders. So I'll create a folder here, database, one folder, controllers, and we need the routes. And that's it for the moment. So first let's create the database file. So we need here to add the connection. Connection.go. Also the package is database. So usually the package name is the name of the directory. So I'll cut this code. I'll go to connection.go and here I'll create a function. I'll call it connect. And I will paste this code. So we need also to import the driver. So driver MySQL. And we will be using this function here in main.go. So first let's import the database. So to import it, we have to use /database. So we import the directory. And to use the function, we use the package first, connect. And this won't change anything. Now let's add the routes. So I'll create here a Go file, routes. I'll create a function, setup, and inside I will cut this code and I will put it here. So we need the app here. So the app should be passed as a property here. So app is star fiber app. And let's pass the app here. So we need to import also the routes. And the routes will set up the routes and we will pass the app inside. So we are done with this also. Now we need this function. So this function should be added in the controller. So let's create a Go file. I will call it auth controller. Here I will create a function, hello. And this function, so I will paste this function first and I will name it here, hello. And now let's use this function. Let's go to the routes and here we need to import the controllers. And to call a function, we have to call here controllers hello, just like this. And now let's run our app. And this will return the same. So we restructured our files and now let's create the register function. So I will rename this to register. And in the routes, this will be the register function. And this will be a post request to API/register. I'll stop the server for the moment. And now let's go to the register function. And for the moment, let's return what the data we will send with the post request. So to get the data from the post request, I'll declare a variable data here, which will be a map string. So this is similar to an array with a string as a key and string as a value. So to parse the data, we have to call a function cBodyParser, and we will pass the data as a reference. This way we will get all the request data that we will send. This returns an error, so we should handle the error. There are two ways to handle the error. One is to add an if condition here. If error is not nil, then we return the error. Or an even shorter way, which is I will add the if condition here, and I will add an semicolon here, and this looks shorter and cleaner. Now we handle the error, we got the data, and now let's return JSON the data to see what we send. So to see the data that we sent, first make sure to install Postman. I already did it, so now let's send a post request to HTTP localhost port 8000 API register. This is a post request, and what we want to send is a raw request. So we'll send the name, email, aata.com, and the password, which will be 1. Send. So I didn't start the server. So we returned exactly what we sent. So if I change this to A, this will change. Now we got the data. Now we have to store this data in the database. So let's create a user table in our database. To do that, we have to create a directory now, models. And inside this directory, I'll create a Go file called user. And let's create a struct for the user. So structs are similar to classes in other languages. So type user struct. And this user will have an ID as an unsigned integer, a name as a string, an email as a string, and a password as a string. So this is our user struct. Now let's create a migration to create a table in our database. So let's use the connection for our database here. So I'll get the connection, and to migrate we have an option here, connection auto migrate. So let's import the models, and we need to auto migrate the users. So we add and here models user. With this we can auto migrate the users. Let's refresh here. We don't have any tables, and if I restart the server, we can see a users table was created. So we have this table with all the fields that we need. So we can add also extra configuration. For example, I want this email to be unique. So I add here GORM unique. With this will make the email unique if I restart the server. Refresh, and as we can see, the email was generated unique. So GORM is a pretty powerful library. Now let's create the user here. So first let's create a user variable, which is equal. So first let's import the models here. Which is equal to models user, and we need to pass the name which is data name, like this. We need to pass the email, which is data email, and we need to pass a password, but the password, we won't set the password directly like this, because we need to hash the password. So let's get a package to hash our password. To search for Go packages, go to go.dev and click Discover Packages. Here we need a package called bcrypt. And this is a package that we want. Copy the link here so we can install it. So go get bcrypt. So I already did it, and now we can add here bcrypt. Now let's use it. So let's create a variable password, and we return also an error, which I won't handle it, is equal to bcrypt generate from password, and we need to pass our password. So data password, but this won't accept a string. So what we need to do here is to convert this to a slice of bytes. So byte like this. And the other parameter is a cost, which I will put 14 here. So this is how we generate a password, and we needed to make it as a byte array. And this new password can be assigned here. The problem is that this password is a byte array also. So how do we convert it? The best way is to make this password also a byte array, like this. So with this, we can use this hashed password, but also we need to auto migrate to the database. So for the moment, I will return the user here because every variable needs to be used. And let's restart the server to see the changes here. Actually, we won't see any changes because the byte array it will be still returned as a long text here. So everything will work fine. Now, if we send the request again, like we did before, we will see that the password is hashed, and also we return an ID here, which is 0. So we haven't assigned that ID in the user model. If we don't assign anything, it will initialize it 0 for numbers and empty strings for strings. So now let's insert this user to the database, and we have to get this variable here. So how do we share this variable from this folder to the auth controller? We have to create a global variable right now. var db is a pointer to gorm db, and we have to assign it with this variable here. So db is equal to the connection. So these two pointers are referencing the same variable, which is the database connection. Now we use this variable in our auth controller. So let's get the database. And to get the variable, we have to use database db. So with this, we got this variable, so the connection, and we have to create now. And we will pass the user as a reference, like this. So with this, we can insert this user to the database. Let's try it. Send the request. So this won't create it because I forgot to restart the server. Send it again. And now, as we can see, the ID is 1. So we successfully inserted the user in the database. Let's see. So this is our generated user. So our user is created. Now let's log in with this user. So let's create a function login. This will have the same parameters, and let's add it also to the routes. So this will post to API/login, and the function is controllers login. So we added this. Now let's make the login work. So we will get the data like the register function. So we will send here an email and a password. So by the email, we want to get the user with that email. So first, let's get a variable user as a models user. And now we need to call the database db where email is equal to question mark, and the email value is data email. And we want to get the first result, and we want to assign it to this user variable. So with this, we will get the user based on the email. If the user ID is equal to 0, this means that we haven't found the user. So we have to set the status to fiber status not found 404 basically, and we have to return here JSON fiber map message user not found. So if we don't find the user, we return status not found, and we return this message. So fiber map is basically a map with a string and interface, so we can put anything there. If we got the user, then we have to compare the password. So to compare the password, we have another function from bcrypt, which is compare and hash password. So the first parameter is the user password, which is a hashed value, and the second parameter is a byte, so we have to convert it also to bytes, of the password that we have. So data password. This returns an error, and if an error happens, so let's make it shorter, so error is not nil here, then we send the status, so status fiber status bad request, and we return JSON fiber map message incorrect password. So if we get an error here, it means that the password is not correct. If we go here, it means that we successfully send the right email, we retrieve the user, and we got the right password. So for the moment, I will return JSON the user. And let's see if this works. So I'll copy this URL, I'll paste it here, and this will be login. Let's send a post request. Let's send a body. So this will be an email at.a.com, and the password is, what is the password? 1. So for the moment, I'll send the wrong email. So did I restart the server? User not found. So if I put the wrong email, it means the user is not found. If I put the wrong password, incorrect password. If I put the right one, then we retrieve the user. So we successfully retrieve the user here, but we want to return a JWT token. To return a JWT token, we need to install another package, JWT, and this is a package that we want to use. So let's copy the URL and install it here. Go get this package. Already have it, so I can use here on top. And now let's create a JWT token. So first we need the claims variable, which is equal to this package JWT new with claims. So this is a function. We need a method, which we get it from JWT sign-in method HS245. So there are a lot of methods, but I will use this HS256. And the second parameter is a JWT standard claims, and inside we will pass an issuer. The issuer is our user. So what we want to pass here is the user ID. Unfortunately, the user ID is not a string, so this accepts a string. So let's convert the user ID to a string. So first we have to import here strconv, and this can convert this to a string. So we use strconv, we use this function, which I cannot pronounce it, and this accepts an int. So user ID is a uint, so this user ID cannot be sent like this, but we have to convert this to an int. So like this we converted the user ID to a string. So this is claims, and we need an expiry, expires at. So let's import also time here, and when we want to expire this token, so we have to pass time. Now we need to add time hour times 24. So this means is 1 day. And this needs to be converted to Unix time. So this is our claims. So it will expire after 24 hours. So now let's create the token, and we will get also an error. Is equal to claims sign string, and here we need to pass a byte array of secret. So this secret is a secret key that we need to store it in our app. So I'll create a constant variable here on top. So const secret key, and this secret key should be stored in our app. And now let's handle the error. So if the error is not nil, we return the error, or we return a better message. So I will do it like this. We return internal server error, and the message is could not log in. So we got this. Now let's return the token, and let's see it. So let's log in again. So let's restart the server, send a request, and as we can see, this is a token that we generated. Now we don't want to return it like this. we want to store it in cookies. So let's create a cookie is equal to fiber cookie. So to create a cookie, we need a name. I'll name it JWT. Value. The value is the token itself. Expires. So let's copy this part here. And this needs not a Unix time. This needs a time like this. And the last one is HTTP only. It's important to add HTTP only here because the frontend cannot access this cookie. So this cookie is meant only to be stored in the frontend and send it, but the frontend doesn't need to access it. And to save it, we need to add here C cookie. So like this as a reference. And that's it. So in the end, we can return fiber map message success. Because we don't want to return the cookie, the frontend will only have the cookie and nothing more. So it won't be able to access it or use it. So this is not enough. We need to add here on main another configuration. So first, our frontend will have course issues. So we need to use app use. We need to use course new. So don't forget also to import this URL here. So course problems are the problems that our backend will run on port 8000 and the frontend will run on different port. So if we don't add this, our browser won't allow the request and it will throw an error. If we add this, then it will ignore that and we will have the request. Still, we need also one configuration, which is course config allow credentials to true. So this is really important, and with this the frontend can get the cookie that we sent and it can send it back. So this is really important if we want to authenticate using HTTP only cookies. So with this, let's test it. We don't have any cookies. And let's send the request. So I forgot again to restart the server. So message is success, but we see here we have a cookie JWT, which is HTTP only. So we need to use this cookie now to retrieve the logged in user. So let's do it now. Function user. I will copy this part and I will add this to the routes. So this is a GET request, API/user and controllers user. Let's go to the function now. And what do we want to do with this function? First, we have to get the cookie. So the cookie is equal to C cookies, and we need a name which is JWT. With this we got the cookie. Now let's retrieve the token. So the token and an error are equal to JWT parse with claims. So this function accepts first the cookie because the cookie is a string right now. We need the claims. The claims are JWT standard claims, so we need to pass it with a reference. And the third parameter is a function which accepts a token and a JWT token as a reference, and this will return an interface and an error. So inside this function we need to return the secret key that we generated here. So we have to return a byte array of the secret key, and the error is nil, so we don't want to return an error. And that's it. So if the error is not nil, then we want to return, I'll copy this, paste it here, fiber status unauthorized, and the message is unauthenticated. So if this returns an error, it means that the user is not logged in. And now we got the token. Let's get the claims from the token. So claims are equal to token claims. And let's return them. See JSON claims. So let's test this function. And I will copy this URL, paste it here, and this is a GET request to user. Send the request, and as we can see, we have an expiry time and also an issuer. So this is the ID of our user. So we got the issuer here, and now let's retrieve the ID. But there is a problem. Claims has only a valid function. It doesn't have an issuer function. Why is that the case? Because this claims is an interface that has only a valid function. What do we want is to return a standard claims. And this has our issuer that we want. So how do we convert these claims to a standard claims? To convert it, we have to use dot parentheses, and this will be converted to JWT standard claims. So this is how we convert one type to another. And now these claims will have the issuer that we want. So now let's use this issuer in order to retrieve the user. So let's first create a variable. User is a type of models user. And now let's query the database. Database DB where ID is equal to question mark, and the ID is claims issuer. The first result is our user. And in the end, we want to return the user. Let's see. So let's restart the server. So we got an error. So as we can see, we converted this to a standard claims, but this needs to be a pointer of standard claims. Let's restart again the server. And we successfully retrieved the user. So with this, we don't send anything. We only send the cookies and we retrieve the user. I forgot to mention that if we open a new tab, the cookie will be preserved. That's why we retrieve the user here. So we got the user, and one thing before we log out, I would like to change the format here of the attributes here. So first, I don't want to show the password, and second, I want this to be lowercase. So how do I do this? Let's go to the user. Here we can add some configuration, like how the JSON will return. So this ID will return like this. The name will return like this. Email, we can add it here, like this. So this can support multiple configurations. And the password, we put a minus here, which means that we don't want to return the password. With this, let's restart the server, send the request again, and this is our user. So name, email, all lowercase, and the password is not returned. Now let's add the last function, which is logout. Now let's copy this part. And to log out now, we have to remove the cookie that we just created here. So how do we remove cookies? To remove cookies is really strange because we don't actually remove it. Cookie. To remove cookies, we create another cookie and we set the expiry time in the past. So let's create this cookie. The name will be JWT. The value will be an empty string. The expiry, so this is the part that we will remove our cookie. So we set the expiry time to now, and we will add here a time, which is time hour with a minus. So this cookie expired 1 hour ago, and HttpOnly is equal to true. So this is how we remove cookies. There is no way to remove the cookies in the browser, just we set the expiry time in the past. So with this, the cookie will be removed. We have to set the cookie and to the response, and let's return a response. So return C JSON fiber map message success, and that's it. So let's add it to the routes. Logout, logout. So with this, we completed the logout function. Let's send. So first, let's restart the server. Let's copy the URL here, paste it here. This is logout, and we need to send a post request. So before I delete the cookie, we have the cookie here, so we retrieve the user, and let's send a post request to the logout. Method not allowed, so this is a post request. Let's restart, send it again, and we have message success, and the cookie is removed here. So if we send the request to the user now, we get unauthenticated because we don't have the cookie. If we log in again, we generate another cookie, then we retrieve the user. So this is how authentication works in Golang. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe.